Hello everybody, if you're a guitar player, you will eventually have to learn and study scales. It's one of the big inevitabilities of the universe. Guitarists will eventually have to learn their scales. We might put it off for a while, but it will become a necessity. It's just an integral part of how we play. And it's important that we make the most out of our time of studying scales. The reason is that scale studies, first of all, is not the most fun thing to do, and also it takes away from other things. You might not be able to have enough time to learn your chords or to improve your musicianship or to work on your improvisation, on your songwriting. And depending on the specifics of what I'm trying to achieve, I might want to approach my practice differently. If I'm just trying to memorize finger patterns, then I might just want to stick to one, play perfectly, then move it across the whole fretboard in all keys, maybe with the circle of fifths, and then move on to different fingerings. If I'm trying to get the sound of the scale inside of my ear so I can recall it and use it freely as I improvise, I probably want to sing that scale as often as possible until I have it well within my ear. I might want to be able to break away from patterns, then maybe I'll just move it all on one string. So there are many ways I can practice scales in the most optimal way for my purpose. But if you're starting out with scales, or maybe with a new scale you haven't played, you're really trying to get as much as possible in one single practice. And I found that a great way to do it is to play what I call sequences within a scale. A sequence is a very simple, small pattern that we're going to repeat throughout the whole scale, and that will give us a few advantages. So let me first demonstrate what a sequence is. If I play a regular major scale from C to C, you can number these notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the regular way of practicing scales would just simply to go up and down. If you know the whole fingering, you can go through all the strings. But still, it's very limiting because, first of all, you never play like this. And secondly, once you get used to how the pick works and how your fingers work, there's very little extra work you have to do, and it becomes mechanical and kind of useless very quickly. By all means, do this first, memorize the position, but once you're done with that, you might want to spice things up. So the sequence is any pattern we can repeat. Let's start with a very simple one, a group of 4 notes. Going back to our first 8 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's take just the first 4 notes and play them in this little group. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very basic. Now we're going to do the same thing, but starting on the next note. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? We have the first sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the second, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, you probably guessed it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Just like that. You might notice that this sounds more musical. It sounds more maybe similar to things you've heard in songs and solos, because you rarely hear somebody go all the way up and all the way down a scale, but you do hear these little pieces and bits of scales. And so this is what it would sound like playing the whole scales in a group of 4. Just like that. You might have noticed now that not only I'm practicing my position, I'm also hearing the scale in a different way, because I'm not going from 1 to 8 in a straight line. Now I'm hearing the relationship in kind of a coil, right? I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are many ways that my ear hears it and perceives it. Another thing I'm working on certainly is my technique, because with the right hand, I'm strictly alternate picking. So I'm going like that, right? Every group of strings is different, and I have to really focus on my picking technique. For this hand, it's also much harder because I'm not going in a straight line. I'm retracing my steps. For these 2 fingers, it's pretty hard sometimes to do. I also have to do these rolls once in a while. You see, with 1 finger taking care of 2 strings consecutively, and so on and so forth. Now, if I speed this up, then all these difficulties will be enhanced. So I'm working on my technique, but also working on my feel and perception of the scale. I'm working on the position itself, and I'm working on the sound of the scale all at once. If I were to sing this sequence, I would also be working on interiorizing and internalizing the sound of the scale like this. Right now I'm relating to the scale with my voice. I'm getting used to these jumps. from the highest note of a group to the bottom note of the next group. There are where the half steps fall, how they sound, because sometimes they're in the middle of the pack. I don't perceive them, but when I start on them, like now, right, you get this sound. We will certainly come in handy when you do modes. We won't get into that, but you know, the Phrygian and the Locrian, well, you need that flat second sound well within your ear if you want to approach those modes in a mature musical way. So that's the point of the sequences. And today I want to show you 3 sequences. There are many more. You can make up your own. These are very simple, actually. You can make them as complicated as you want, but these 3 will get you started. And the first one is in groups of 4, as we said. So I'm going to demonstrate this for you very slowly, and I'm of course going to play ascending and descending, because descending is just as important and it creates its own set of difficulties. So let me show you groups of 4, ascending and descending throughout. We're going to play it in this very simple fingering for C major. The second sequence I'm going to show you is very similar to the first one, but this time we're going to use groups of 3 notes instead of 4. So again, going back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to group them, the first 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and so on. I'm always sticking to strictly alternate picking, which creates its own sets of problems. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, like that. Sound-wise, again, very common in improvisation and solos. You'll certainly make good use of this. And I'm going to demonstrate it very quickly for you right now, and then I'm going to give you a close-up with, of course, tabs. Difficulties here you want to look out for, the pick of course, and it's a pretty agile sequence because you won't spend a lot of time in a given sequence because it's only 3 notes. Start slowly, in full control of what your left hand is doing. And again, let me give it to you from close-up. The last sequence I want to show you in today's brief introduction to scale sequences is thirds. What thirds means, if you're not familiar with the theory, is simply that we take the first note and the third, then the second and fourth, the third and fifth, and so on. Basically, we skip a note for every note we play. And it goes like this. We play the first and the third note, the second and fourth, the third and fifth, fourth and sixth, and this is actually moving in thirds. But again, if that's something you're not familiar with, don't worry about it. Just move your fingers as I say, and you'll get the benefit. And it goes like this. Again, strictly alternate picking, and this hand has to be very relaxed and very agile because you're constantly moving down the strings. You know, you spend a lot less time on each set of strings. For example, in the first one, we were spending a long time on, for example, the 6th and 5th string, like a bunch of notes. Here is like, it's gone already. Something certainly you have to keep in mind. And again, let me show it to you from close-up. Thank you so much for watching. For a lot more on technique, check out my books on alternate picking and legato. I can wholeheartedly recommend them. If you'd like to give this video a like and maybe subscribe, it would be of great help, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye.